stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the Man from Lang. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, I'm reviewing the Mystic cards in 1,000 Shapes of Horror, the second Mythos pack in the Dream Eater cycle. There are spoilers throughout if you care about that sort of thing. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support and Coleman Rowe Chitty for his fantastic depiction of a man from Lang. The Arkham Horror LCG community is amazing, and these people have gone above and beyond to bring you content like these reviews. If you'd like to become a patron to support the channel's goals and see your name in lights, follow the link down below, sign up for a tier of your choice, and claim your rewards. That would be awesome. Without further ado, let's get started. The first Mystic card in the pack is Healing Words. It's a 2-cost asset with a Willpower skill icon and the spell trait. It enters play with 3 charges. It has the following game text: Action, spend 1 charge, heal 1 damage from an investigator at your location. Healing Words takes up an arcane slot. Clarity of Mind was released in the Dunwich Legacy expansion, while Clarity of Mind 3 was released in Return to the Dunwich Legacy. Clarity of Mind appears in a surprising number of decks over at Arkham DB. I say surprising because it's not a very good card when it was released, and it's only gotten worse as the card pool has expanded. Like many of the awful healing cards in this game, Clarity of Mind takes an action to play and another action to trigger every time you want to use it, which is the very definition of a tempo killer. Worse, Clarity of Mind requires a coveted arcane slot. Mystics need their arcane slots for cards that help them discover clues and to defeat or evade enemies, not heal horror. The other strike against this card is that Mystics have better ways to deal with horror. Deny Existence 0 and 5 and Fearless 0 and 2 heal horror without requiring an action or an arcane slot, while several Mystics can pick up Peter Sylvester or Peter Sylvester 2 if they're really worried about their sanity. Or you could just play just about any other ally to soak horror for you, since direct horror is very rare. The only investigator who might consider playing either Clarity of Mind 0 or Clarity of Mind 3 is Carolyn Fern, since she can use it to trigger her response to generate resources. So along comes Healing Words, which is basically the same as Clarity of Mind, except that it heals damage instead of horror. It has all the same problems of Clarity of Mind. It's slow as hell, it requires an arcane slot. I've played a lot of Mystic Investigators over the years, and I haven't exactly been pining for a card that can heal damage. If you're really worried about taking damage, you're better off playing Deny Existence 0, or later in a campaign Deny Existence 5, or you could simply play any other ally to soak damage for you. The only investigator who might consider playing Healing Words is Vincent Lee, the Doctor, and that's only if his deck building options and response are anything like those of Carolyn Fern. But we don't know what Vincent Lee's ability will be, so that's just speculation on my part. If I had to say something nice about Healing Words, it would be the fact that it has the spell trait, which synergizes with a lot of Mystic cards. Otherwise, if I had to pick the worst card in this pack, it would be Healing Words. I've never played Clarity of Mind in any of my Mystic decks, and I highly doubt that I will ever play Healing Words either. I understand why designer Matt Newman created this card, but it seems like a completely unnecessary card at this point in the game's life cycle. I'm almost willing to bet that we'll see Healing Words 3 released in the Return to the Dream Eaters expansion, which would, it would be disappointing. At this point in the game's life cycle, Mystics have so many good cards to play that this throwback to the core set is just pointless filler at this point. The only reason I can see them printing this at this time is that if we're going to be getting an investigator who can play it at some point in the future. That's about it. The second Mystic card in the pack is Ethereal Form. It's a 2-cost Mystic event with Willpower and Agility skill icons and the spell trait. It has the following game text: Evade. Your Willpower skill value. Add your Willpower skill value to your skill value for this evasion attempt. If you succeed, disengage from each other enemy engaged with you, and for the remainder of the round you are ethereal. Enemies cannot engage or be engaged with you, and you cannot attack or deal damage to enemies. Ethereal Form was among the 4 cards spoiled in the preview article for 1,000 Shapes of Horror, so a lot of what I have to say here is going to sound familiar. Mystics and off-class Mystics who need to evade an enemy have only 3 options at level 0. First, they can take up a straight-up evade action, though most of them have average agility skill values. The second option is to play Blinding Light from the core set. Blinding Light 0 lets investigators evade with their willpower instead of agility, which is good. Unfortunately, if you pull a special token, you lose an action. That's not so good, and likely one of the reasons that Blinding Light 0 doesn't see much play these days. The third option is to play Mists of Rillier, an asset from the Forgotten Age. Mists is a great option since it allows an investigator to evade using their willpower skill value, and if you succeed, you get to move to a connecting location. Mists even comes with 4 charges, so you can rinse and repeat as necessary. Mists of Rillier forces you to discard a card from your hand if you pull a special token, but that's much better than losing an action. Ethereal Form offers another take on the evade action. It has the spell trait, which synergizes nicely with cards such as Arcane Initiate, Diana Esperance, De Vermis Mysterious, Grounded, Marie Lambeau, and Uncage the Soul. When you play Ethereal Form, you add your willpower skill value to your agility skill value. For most mystics and off-class mystics, that means they're working with a skill value of 7 or 8, which should be sufficient in all but the most dire do-or-die situations. If you succeed, you exhaust the enemy you evaded and disengage from each other enemy engaged with you. Better yet, enemies cannot engage you for the remainder of the round, giving you a great opportunity to move through any enemy-infested locations or pick up clues at those locations before you rematerialize. There are a couple of downsides to playing Ethereal Form. First, if you disengage from a bunch of enemies after the first successful skill test, some of those enemies will simply re-engage with another investigator at that location. That doesn't matter in solo play, but it could be important in multiplayer. Ethereal Form won't get your entire group out of a jam, so keep that in mind. The second issue is that while enemies may not engage with you, you can't deal damage to them either. You can't play Ethereal Form to Vanish and then follow it up, say, with a Storm of Spirits 0 or 3. I don't think this is too big of a problem. If you're playing a card such as Ethereal Form, you're probably looking to extricate yourself from a sticky situation rather than immediately run back in, spells blazing. Any mystic or off-class mystic may play Ethereal Form, but there are 2 investigators in particular who may like it, SEFINA Rousseau and Luke Robinson. SEFINA likes Ethereal Form because it's an event that she can place under her at the start of the game and replicate with the Painted World. SEFINA also has combined willpower and agility skill value of 8, making her a very slippery character indeed. Luke Robinson also takes a shine to events which he may play as if he was at a connecting location and engaged with each enemy at that location. Luke has a combined willpower and agility of 7, which is very good. He also has the advantage of targeting the enemy with the lowest evade value from the safety of a connecting location, and then moving if necessary. For example, if Luke is flanked by enemies, he could evade the easiest enemy and then move in either direction. Don't forget that Luke can play Ethereal Form from the safety of his Dream Gate, which is connected to each other revealed location in play. Mystics and off-class mystics don't have that many good evasion options at level 0, so Ethereal Form is a welcome addition to the card pool. The ability to evade one enemy and disengage from all the others is fantastic if you get swarmed, which is a very real threat during the Dream Eater cycle. Those enemies will go looking for other investigators to engage, but that's not going to be an issue if you're trapped and alone, and let's be honest, the group's guardian can't be in 2 places at once. Sometimes investigators need to take matters into their own hands, and Ethereal Form is a great get-out-of-jail-free card if you happen to get jumped by more enemies than you can handle. That's going to do it for my look at the Mystic cards in 1,000 Shapes of Horror. Healing Words is a very disappointing card, and the less that's said about it, the better. I just don't understand. Why was this printed? Nobody was playing Clarity of Mind, so why do we think they were going to play this card? Unless FFG prints a mystical healer, I just don't see this card seeing play. I don't know. I wish it was something else. There's so many interesting cards that have been released for this game that this could have been anything else, and it would have been better. Ethereal Form, on the other hand, is a welcome addition to the card pool since it gives mystics and off-class mystics an alternative to Blinding Light 0, which doesn't see much play these days. Ethereal Form synergizes with SEFINA Rousseau and Luke Robinson, but I think it's the type of card that will make the cut in a lot of mystic and off-class mystic desks. Mists of Rillier is a great card, but competition for that arcane slot is stiff, so having the option of a decent evasion event is great to have. That's going to do it for this review. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromlang@gmail.com. I am also on Twitter at manfromlang. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.